When my stepmom tried to sabotage my wedding, I chose to stand up for myself. Now, my dad and I are rebuilding from the ashes of her lies. I'm a 28-year-old guy. My mom passed away when I was 10. It was tough, but my dad and we were a team. We got through it together. For a while, it was just the two of us against the world. But then, when I was 13, my dad started dating again. Enter my stepmom. From the moment I met her, something felt off. She was all smiles and sweetness when my dad was around. But the second he left the room, it was like a switch flipped. The smile would vanish, replaced by a cold, calculating look that sent chills down my spine. At first, it was little things. She'd accidentally throw away my homework or forget to tell me about plans, leaving me out of family activities. When I tried to tell my dad, she'd play the victim. Tears in her eyes as she insisted it was all just a misunderstanding. "Honey," she'd say, her voice dripping with fake concern. "I'm so sorry if you felt left out. I'm just trying my best to be a good mother to you." My dad, blinded by his newfound happiness, always took her side. "Son," he'd say, his brow furrowed with disappointment, "you need to try harder to get along with her. She's part of our family now." But as time went on, her tactics got more insidious. She'd criticize everything about me, my appearance, my interests, my friends. Nothing I did was ever good enough. She'd make snide comments about my mother, implying that she hadn't raised me right. Each barb was carefully crafted to cut deep, while maintaining plausible deniability. I remember one particularly painful incident when I was 16. I had just won a big science fair at school, and I was on cloud 9. As I burst through the door, eager to share my news, I found my dad and stepmom in the kitchen. "Dad, I won the science fair," I exclaimed, holding up my trophy. My dad's face lit up. "That's fantastic, son. I'm so proud of you." But before he could say more, my stepmom chimed in. "How nice," she said, her tone making it clear she thought it was anything but. "I suppose it's good you have something to fall back on, since you're certainly not going to make it as an athlete." My face fell. I had been struggling with my weight, a fact she never let me forget. But to bring it up now in what should have been a moment of triumph, it was cruel, even for her. My dad, as usual, missed the subtext entirely. "Now, dear," he said mildly, "let's focus on the positive. This is a big achievement, but the damage was done. What should have been one of the proudest moments of my young life had been tainted, like so many others, by her casual cruelty." As I got older, I tried to distance myself from her as much as possible. I threw myself into my studies, determined to get into a good college far away from home. When I finally did, it felt like I could breathe for the first time in years. But even from a distance, she found ways to get under my skin. She'd call my dad while I was visiting, manufacturing some crisis that required his immediate attention. She'd send passive-aggressive gifts, diet books, self-help guides on how to make friends, each one a carefully aimed arrow, designed to make me feel small and unloved. Through it all, my dad remained oblivious, or at least that's what I told myself. It was easier to believe he was clueless than to face the possibility that he saw what was happening and chose to do nothing. Fast forward to the present. I'm engaged to an amazing woman who's been my rock through all of this. As we started planning our wedding, one thing was clear to me from the start. My stepmom would not be there. The thought of her poisoning my wedding day, like she had so many others, was unbearable. When I broke the news to my dad, I expected resistance. What I didn't expect was the ultimatum that followed. "Son," he said, his voice stern in a way I hadn't heard since I was a kid, "I understand you and your stepmom have had your differences, but she's my wife, and she's part of this family. If she's not invited, I won't be coming either." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "Dad," I pleaded, "you don't understand. You've never understood. Do you have any idea what she's put me through all these years?" But he wouldn't budge. "She's been nothing but good to this family," he insisted. "I think you're exaggerating things. It's time to let go of this childish grudge." Childish grudge? Was that really how he saw it? Years of emotional abuse, of feeling like an outsider in my own family, reduced to a childish grudge. That's when something in me snapped. All the hurt, all the anger I'd been holding back for years came rushing to the surface. "Fine," I said, my voice shaking. "If that's how you feel, then you don't have to come either. I'll have someone else walk me down the aisle." The look on his face, shock, hurt, anger, almost made me take it back. Almost, but I stood my ground. For once in my life, I was choosing my own happiness over the twisted version of family my stepmom had created. Word of my decision spread quickly through the family. My phone blew up with messages from relatives, some supportive, others less so. My stepmom, true to form, played the victim. She told anyone who would listen about how cruel and ungrateful I was, how she had only ever tried to be a mother to me. But here's the thing, for the first time, people weren't buying it. My aunt, my dad's sister, called me out of the blue. "I've kept quiet for too long," she said, her voice heavy with regret. "I always knew something wasn't right, but I didn't want to rock the boat. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I should have said something sooner." It was like a dam breaking. Once my aunt spoke up, others followed. Cousins, family friends, even my dad's coworkers reached out with stories of things they'd witnessed over the years. Little incidents that seemed innocent enough on their own, but when put together, painted a clear picture of my stepmom's true nature. As the truth came to light, I found myself facing a new dilemma. Part of me wanted to rub it in my dad's face, to force him to confront the reality of what he'd allowed to happen. But another part of me, the part that still remembered the man who'd been my hero when I was a kid, hesitated. Then, about a week before the wedding, my dad showed up at my door. He looked older than I'd ever seen him, his shoulders slumped under the weight of realization. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I let him in, my heart pounding. We sat in silence for what felt like hours before he finally spoke. "I've been a fool," he said, tears in his eyes. "All these years I told myself I was protecting our family. But the truth is, I was just protecting myself. It was easier to believe everything was fine than to face the possibility that I'd let someone hurt my son. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to scream and rage at him for all the years of pain, for choosing her over me time and time again. But seeing him there, broken and vulnerable, I felt something else entirely. Pity. "Why now?" I asked. "What changed?" He pulled out his phone, showing me a video. It was from a security camera in their house, showing my stepmom in the middle of one of her tie rods. She was on the phone, unaware she was being recorded, gleefully detailing all the ways she'd manipulated me and my dad over the years. "Your aunt installed it," he explained. "She had suspicions and, well, I guess she was right." The revelation hit me like a ton of bricks. All those years of gaslighting, of being made to feel like I was crazy or oversensitive, and here was proof. Undeniable, irrefutable proof. "I've left her," my dad continued. "Filed for divorce this morning. I know it doesn't make up for everything, but I hope it's a start." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to forgive him instantly, to fall into his arms like I had when I was a kid. But another part held back, wary of being hurt again. "I understand if you don't want me at the wedding," he said, getting up to leave. "I just wanted you to know the truth and to say I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." As he reached the door, I found my voice. "Dad," I called out. He turned, hope flickering in his eyes. I need some time, but maybe we could get coffee next week after the honeymoon." The smile that broke across his face was like the sun coming out after a storm. "I'd like that," he said. "I'd like that very much." The wedding itself was beautiful, surrounded by friends and loved ones who truly supported us. My bride and I said our vows. As I looked out at the crowd, I saw my aunt sitting where my dad would have been. She gave me a teary smile and a thumbs up. It wasn't the family I'd imagined having at my wedding when I was a kid. But as I held my new wife's hand, I realized something. Family isn't always about blood. It's about the people who stand by you, who lift you up instead of tearing you down. And looking around at the faces of those who had chosen to be there, I knew I had all the family I needed. The road ahead won't be easy. Rebuilding my relationship with my dad will take time and effort from both of us. The scars left by years of emotional abuse don't fade overnight. But for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful about the future. As for my stepmom, last I heard, she was trying to spin some story about being the real victim in all this. But you know what? I don't care anymore. She no longer has the power to hurt me. I've taken that power back, and I'm never letting it go again. If there's one thing I've learned through all this, it's that you have to stand up for yourself, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, because at the end of the day, you're the author of your own story. Don't let anyone else hold the pen. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them. So please leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more stories like this one.